Welcome back to another episode of What If Naruto Had a Big Brother? In this alternate Naruto universe, one small twist changes everything. What if Naruto wasn't alone? What if he grew up with someone stronger, smarter, and born to rewrite destiny itself? Today, we dive deeper into the story of Kaito Uzumaki, Naruto's powerful older brother whose existence shakes the entire Shinobi world. New alliances form, new enemies rise, and the future of Konoha may never be the same again. So sit back, relax, and get ready, because this episode is about to change everything. Kushina hummed, not entirely convinced, but she didn't press him. Instead she opened another container, revealing more tamagoyaki. Here. Eat as much as you want. You need fuel if you're going to keep up with that man. Kaito didn't need to be told twice. As he ate, Naruto scooted closer, eyes sparkling with curiosity. So what did you learn today, big brother? Did you fight anyone super strong? Kaito ruffled Naruto's hair affectionately. Kind of. I sparred with Gai-san. He's really strong in taijutsu. Naruto's eyes widened. Stronger than you? Kaito smirked. For now. Naruto puffed out his chest proudly. Then one day I'll be stronger than both of you. Kushina laughed out loud at that, hugging her youngest tightly. That's my boy. Always dreaming big, you know. Kaito smiled quietly, watching them with a warmth that settled deep in his chest. Moments like this, they grounded him. Reminded him of what he was fighting for. Why he wanted to grow stronger. Because he wasn't just shaping his own future. He was protecting their future too. After they ate, Kushina leaned back and closed her eyes for a moment, enjoying the gentle rustle of wind through the leaves. Kai-kun, she said softly, without opening her eyes. Don't forget to pace yourself. No amount of strength is worth losing yourself over. Take breaks when you need them, okay? Kaito nodded, even though she wasn't looking. Hi, Mom. Naruto crawled onto his lap a second later, using Kaito's chest as a pillow, and Kaito instinctively wrapped an arm around him. Naruto was already half asleep, worn out from the excitement. Kushina opened one eye and smiled at the sight. He really loves you, you know. Kaito glanced down at Naruto's sleeping face, brushing a stray blonde strand away from his eyes. Yeah, he whispered. I know. They stayed like that for a while, the three of them resting beneath the shifting sunlight, a peaceful bubble in the midst of a world that was constantly moving, constantly demanding, constantly expecting. Eventually, Kushina stood and began packing up the empty containers. We should head back. Naru-chan still has sealing practice, she said, nudging Naruto awake gently. The boy groaned but stood, leaning sleepily against her. Kaito stood as well, brushing off his clothes. Thanks for the food, Mom. And for coming. Kushina pulled him into a tight embrace. Of course. I'll always be here for you, you know. Kaito hugged her back, the familiar warmth grounding him. See you at dinner, he said quietly. Kushina took Naruto's hand, waving as they began walking away. Don't train too long, Kai-kun. I won't, he called after them. He watched them until they disappeared through the trees. Only then did he turn back toward the ruined training ground, rolling his shoulders and cracking his neck lightly. The quiet settled over him once more. And Kaito exhaled slowly. Oh, time for round 2. He lifted his hand, making a familiar seal. Shadow clone jutsu. White smoke erupted around him, and the clearing filled with multiple versions of himself, each waiting for orders. Kaito's eyes sharpened. He had 1 month. Just one. He couldn't afford to waste a second. As Kaito rushed down the hallway toward the bathroom, he could still hear Naruto shouting excitedly from the living room, already bouncing up and down like he'd eaten a sack of sugar. Kushina's laughter followed right after, warm and familiar, filling the house with the kind of comfort Kaito wished he could freeze in time. He closed the bathroom door behind him and turned on the water, letting the steam fill the small room. The hot water washed away the dried sweat, dust, and lingering frustration from training. He took a deep breath, letting his mind settle. Tomorrow was the finals. Tomorrow his real test would begin. When he stepped out of the bath and returned to his room, the neatly folded yukata waited for him atop his bed, a deep navy blue one with silver wave patterns across the fabric. Next to it was an obi of matching silver, clearly chosen by Kushina with care. Kaito dressed quickly, tying the obi securely around his waist before brushing a few damp strands of hair from his face. The yukata fit perfectly and felt light, comfortable, exactly what he needed. He made his way back to the living room, adjusting the collar as he walked. Naruto's jaw dropped dramatically the moment he saw him. "Wooa! Kainai look so cool," Naruto shouted, pointing at him with sparkles in his eyes. Kushina clasped her hands together, pride beaming from her whole face. See, I told you he'd look handsome, you know," she said with a grin. Kaito rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly, cheeks turning faintly pink. "Mom picked it. So, of course it looks good." Kushina swatted his shoulder lightly. "Oh hush, Kai-kun, don't flatter me. Now let's go before Naruto-chan explodes from excitement." Naruto was already halfway out the door. "Ramen time. Let's go." Kaito slipped on his sandals and followed them out, closing the door behind him as the warm village breeze washed over them. The streets were lively, stalls opening and families strolling as the village prepared for the upcoming finals. Lanterns swayed gently overhead, and merchants called out their morning deals. Kushina linked her arms with both her sons, pulling them close as they walked. "Tomorrow's a big day, Kai-kun," she said softly, glancing at him from the corner of her eye. "No matter what happens in the finals, just fight your hardest, okay?" Kaito smiled faintly. "I will." Naruto puffed out his chest. "Kainai's gonna win for sure. And I'm gonna win the academy tournament next year too. Believe it." Kaito laughed. "Dream big, Naruto." Their voices carried through the streets as they walked, the family of three making their way toward Ichiraku Ramen, toward warmth, comfort, and a moment of peace before everything changed tomorrow. And as he looked up at the sky, clouds drifting lazily overhead, something inside him stirred. He was ready. Ready for the finals. Ready for the world to see exactly who Kaito Uzumaki Namikaze truly was. Naruto's competitive glare didn't last long before Kushina reached over and lightly tapped the back of his head. "All right you three, no fighting before the matches even begin, you know," she chided, though amusement danced in her eyes. Sasuke simply clicked his tongue and looked away while Naruto puffed up his cheeks in annoyance. Hinata glanced between them nervously before gently tugging Naruto's sleeve. Naruto-kun. Why you should sit. The matches will start soon." Her voice was soft, but it worked. Naruto immediately deflated and plopped down, arms crossed stubbornly. Kushina chuckled and ruffled his hair before settling into the seat beside Mikoto. The stands were filling quickly now, the excited chatter growing louder as the entire stadium buzzed with anticipation. Merchants shouted out last-minute sales on dango and senbei, parents pointed excitedly as they found their seats, and shinobi from various nations gathered in separate clusters, all watching the center field with keen interest. Down below, far beneath the rumble of the growing crowd, Team 11 stood together in the arena's waiting area. Hotaru adjusted her gloves, taking a calming breath. Itachi stood at her side, expression cool and composed. Kaito stretched his arms behind his head, gaze drifting up to where he roughly sensed his mother and brother's chakra signatures. He smiled faintly. "Looks like everyone showed up," Kaito muttered. "Hi," Itachi replied softly. "Your mother seems very excited." Hotaru nodded with a tiny laugh. "Naruto-kun too. He's practically jumping around." Kaito snorted. "That sounds about right." Shikaku appeared behind them, hands in his pockets, his posture as lazy as ever. "All right, you three. The proctors will call you up soon. Remember, no matter who your opponent is, keep a clear head. Don't underestimate anyone." Kaito raised a brow. Even the Kumo kid with the huge ego. Shikaku gave him a flat look. Especially him. Hotaru and Itachi hid small smiles as Kaito huffed and turned back toward the arena entrance. The heavy doors rumbled open as the proctors began calling each team into position. Overhead, an announcement echoed across the entire arena. Attention, all spectators. The Chunin exam final round will begin shortly. Will all participants proceed to the central arena? The crowd roared, a wave of excitement sweeping through the stadium. Naruto jumped to his feet, fists pumping in the air. It's starting. It's starting. Hinata-chan, look. Hinata clasped her hands nervously. Why yes. Even Neji, seated on her other side, opened his eyes slightly to observe the arena with more interest than expected. Kushina leaned forward, spotting a familiar white jacket among the genin entering the field. There he is, she whispered proudly. Kai-kun looks so handsome, you know. Mikoto giggled softly. He does. You raised him well, Kushina. Kushina beamed, her heart swelling with warmth. Down below, Kaito stepped out into the sunlight, squinting as the entire stadium erupted in cheers. Shinobi from Kumo, Kiri, and Suna narrowed their eyes at the competition, while the Konoha crowd cheered their own with extra enthusiasm. Hotaru scanned the arena with her Byakugan, taking in every detail. Itachi already had a hand resting lightly near his tanto. Kaito cracked his knuckles, smirking with excitement. In the center, Shibi Aburame raised his hand for silence. This year's final round will consist of one-on-one matches. The bracket will now be displayed. A giant board lit up on the far side of the stadium. Names began appearing, one pair at a time. Kaito's breath caught slightly when he saw the first matchup. Kaito Uzumaki Namikaze versus Mangetsu Hazuki. Naruto immediately exploded from his seat. What? Kainai is fighting the scary sword guy first. Believe it. He's gonna win. Sasuke smirked. He'll need more than belief. Hinata gasped softly. That's a hard match. Up in the stands, Kushina's eyes widened with concern. Mangetsu? Already? What awful luck, you know. Mikoto patted her hand reassuringly. Kaito is strong. He'll be fine. Back on the field, Kaito just grinned wider. Oh? Perfect, he muttered. I wanted to fight him anyway. Shikaku sighed deeply behind them. Troublesome kid. Try not to cause an international incident. Mangetsu cracked his neck from across the field, giving Kaito a shark-like grin as he stepped forward. This'll be fun, he said. Kaito raised 2 fingers in a casual salute. Come at me. The crowd roared as Shibi lifted his arm. First match, begin. Kaito and Utakata faced one another across the arena, the roar of the crowd building into a thunderous wall of sound that vibrated through the very ground beneath their feet. The morning sun hung high above the stadium, bathing both boys in a bright, golden light that only added to the weight of the moment. Utakata stood tall and calm, his expression unreadable behind the curtain of his dark blue hair that swayed gently in the breeze. He wore the Kiri forehead protector tied neatly around his forehead and carried a simple bamboo pipe in one hand, his signature weapon and conduit for his bubble ninjutsu. His posture was relaxed, almost lazy-looking, but Kaito could see the condensed chakra swirling inside him like restrained steam, quietly pressurizing. Kaito cracked his neck and rolled his shoulders once, settling into a loose, ready stance. From the stands, Naruto's voice echoed clear as day. Go Kainii. Kick his butt. Believe it. The crowd laughed, and Kushina covered her face with her palm, though there was no hiding her grin. Rado raised one hand between the 2 genin. This is a one-on-one match. No killing. If I deem you unable to continue, I'll stop the fight immediately. Understood. Both nodded. He lowered his hand sharply. Begin. The instant the word left Rado's mouth, Kaito blurred. Body flicker. He closed half the distance in a breath, only to halt as several shimmering soap-like bubbles floated lazily between them. They drifted harmlessly in the air, but Kaito's eyes narrowed. He knew better than to underestimate anything that looked harmless. Wind style, gale palm. A swift blast of wind shot forward, bursting the bubbles. Boom! 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 A chain of explosions erupted like a string of miniature bombs, their shockwaves rippling across the arena floor. The sudden blast forced Kaito to leap back, shielding his face with his arm as dust and debris flew everywhere. From within the swirling smoke, Utakata's voice drifted out, soft and almost bored. "You're fast. But rushing in blindly won't work." Kaito smirked. "I wasn't rushing blindly, I was testing you." Wind swirled around Kaito as he lowered his arm, red lightning crackling faintly beneath his sleeve. "You've got a scary amount of chakra control. Those were explosive bubbles, right?" Utakata lifted his pipe to his lips. "Try not to die." He exhaled gently. A bubble floated out, only one, but the instant it touched the air, it multiplied into dozens, then hundreds, drifting in an eerie, silent wall toward Kaito. The crowd murmured in awe. "Whoa, what is that jutsu?" Naruto gasped. Hinata's Byakugan activated reflexively. "Their chakra. It's dense. Each bubble is dangerous." Shikamaru clicked his tongue. "What a drag. That's a terrible matchup for Kaito." Kushina gripped the rail, eyes sharp. "Kai-kun, don't be reckless." Down below, Kaito drew a slow breath, watching the hundreds of bubbles float toward him like a shimmering wave. They all exploded on contact. He couldn't just rush in. He couldn't just blast them all. He needed an opening. He needed. "So the array changes. Every time they multiply," Kaito muttered under his breath as he watched the pattern. 1 in 3 is explosive, the rest are decoys. But the explosive ones react to pressure. Utakata finished his thought for him, his voice cutting through the battlefield as he sent another cluster floating toward Kaito. "Any sudden force triggers them." Kaito smirked. "Thanks for telling me." Kagura's mind-eye, activate. The world shifted. The aura around each bubble became vividly clear in his mind. 3 types of chakra signatures repeating in a rhythm: normal bubble, decoy bubble, explosive bubble. "There you are." Kaito sprinted forward, weaving in and out of the floating orbs, slipping between them like a leaf riding the wind. His movements became sharp yet fluid, exploiting every gap the moment it appeared. The crowd roared as he danced through the minefield of bubbles. Utakata's eyes widened the slightest bit. "Oh, impressive." Kaito burst through the final line of bubbles, closing in on Utakata with red lightning flickering around him. Lightning style. But Utakata was faster. He slammed the end of his pipe against the ground. Soap bubble prison. A massive, shimmering sphere erupted around Kaito before he could finish his jutsu, swallowing him whole. The barrier thickened instantly, turning transparent like a giant pearl trapping him inside. Kaito's eyes widened. TCH. Outside, Utakata lifted his hand, chakra gathering at his fingertips. "If you try to use lightning inside that," Utakata warned quietly, "the conductive membrane will amplify the backlash. You'll electrocute yourself." The crowd gasped. Even Kushina stiffened. "Kai-kun." Kaito stared through the curved membrane at Utakata, then grinned. "Oh really? Thanks for the tip." Utakata blinked, confused. Kaito gathered chakra into his palm, but it wasn't lightning. It wasn't wind. It wasn't even Rasengan. He lowered his stance. And punched. The entire bubble trembled. The membrane stretched. Crack. It cracked like glass. Utakata's eyes widened. "What?" Kaito's fist pulsed. Uzumaki enhanced strength. Crash. The bubble shattered into countless fragments, sparkling like diamonds in the sunlight. Before they even hit the ground, Kaito launched himself forward through the raining shards. Red lightning surged up his arm. Lightning fist. His punch connected squarely with Utakata's stomach. BAAAAAM. A shockwave tore across the arena floor. The Kumo genin in the stands flinched. Naruto leapt up cheering. He got him. Utakata was blasted off his feet, tumbling back across the battlefield before skidding violently to a halt, dust billowing around him. For a moment, the entire stadium fell silent. Rado's eyes widened as he stepped forward. But then Uchihaclan slowly rose to his feet. Blood dripped from his lip. "Not bad," he murmured, wiping it away with the back of his hand. Then a familiar glow began forming around him, dark blue chakra flaring like mist, swirling faster and thicker. Hotaru's eyes widened from the waiting area. That chakra. Neji Hyuga's Byakugan snapped open instinctively. "Proctor. That's..." Kaito narrowed his eyes as Uchihaclan exhaled softly. "TSK. A partial transformation? Already." A ghostly, bubbling cloak of Six-Tails chakra appeared around Uchihaclan's body. The crowd gasped. Kushina's fingers tightened around the railing. Naruto's mouth fell open. Uchihaclan looked up at Kaito, eyes sharper now, voice low and steady. "Let's continue, Uzumaki." Kaito grinned and lowered into a stance, red lightning bursting to life along his arms. "Oh, yeah." The tension in the arena snapped like a drawn bowstring as both fighters lunged forward at once. The real fight was just beginning. The others began to make their way toward the designated area as Hotaru stepped close and wrapped her arms around Kaito. "Good luck, Kai-kun," she whispered before pulling away, her smile warm and confident. Itachi gave Kaito a simple nod, quiet, steady, before he too turned and headed for the stands. Rado lifted a hand, motioning Kaito and Uchihaclan toward the center of the arena. The roar of the crowd swelled into a single wave of excitement, rolling through the stadium as the two boys took their positions, standing apart with Rado between them like a blade dividing the field. In the stands, Shikaku trudged down the stone steps of the spectator platform, hands tucked lazily into his pockets. He greeted passing Shinobi with small nods before settling into a seat beside Inochi and Choza. Inochi leaned forward with a grin. "So? Any bets, Shikaku?" Shikaku exhaled in that tired way of his. "Hard to say, but I'm confident one of my brats will take the win." Choza raised a brow. "That confident, huh?" "I've trained them for 2 years," Shikaku replied, shrugging. "You'd say the same if you'd been their sensei." Choza chuckled. "We'll see." Further up, Kushina's eyes lit up as she spotted her son walking onto the field with Hotaru and Itachi. She practically bounced in her seat. "Look, there they are. Kaito, Hotaru, and Itachi." Naruto, already standing on his chair, pumped his fist. "Go Kaito nii. Go Hotaru ne. You got this." Shikamaru groaned. "Troublesome, you're way too loud for this early in the morning." The arena fell into a hush as Hiruzen stepped forward to address the crowd, his voice carrying over the stadium with calm authority. When the speech ended and the participants moved toward their places, Kushina clasped her hands together excitedly. "Kai-kun's first. Oh, this is perfect. Come on, Kai-kun. Make Mama proud." On the arena floor, a breeze rolled across the field as Kaito and Uchihaclan stood opposite one another, Rado's eyes flicking between them. Kaito tilted his head curiously. "I've been wondering, were you 3 placed together since graduation, or did they form your team specifically for this exam?" Uchihaclan blinked. "We were chosen. In Mist, some genin get taken on as apprentices by jonin. The rest are assigned teams, or go to the genin corps." Kaito nodded quietly. "Apprentices. In other words, the same system the 7 swordsmen use." Rado raised his hand. "Ready." Both boys nodded. "Hajime." Kaito and Uchihaclan sprang apart at the same moment. Uchihaclan drew a slender flute-like tool and blew, soft notes turning into drifting bubbles. Kaito flicked several shuriken forward, popping the bubbles in small bursts of air, and then blurred behind Uchihaclan, aiming a punch at his spine. But Uchihaclan burst into foam. A clone. When? Kaito sensed the pressure behind him and moved instantly, leaping forward just as a barrage of explosive bubbles tore up the ground behind him. He slid back across the stone as shuriken flashed from his hands again. More bubbles burst in violent shockwaves. Kaito lunged forward, fist cocked. Uchihaclan twisted away, releasing another stream of bubbles. Kaito leapt back, avoiding several explosions, until he felt his feet tug. He looked down. A sticky sheen coated the ground beneath him, bubble residue. TCH. The bubbles floating around the field snapped toward him in unison. Dozens of miniature explosions enveloped him. In the stands, Naruto gasped, gripping the railing. Kaito nii. Shikaku barely glanced up. That kid used the bubble bombs to distract him and walked him into a trap. Choza frowned. So, that's it. Shikaku's lips curved. Not even close. Kaito's just gauging him. Watch, this match is already over. On the opposite side of the stands, Terumi watched with narrowed eyes. He's toying with Uchihaclan. He's barely even trying, she muttered. Is that really the son of the fourth? Above her, Kakashi stood with Yamato. Yamato tilted his head. That's the kid from the Danzo incident, isn't it? Kakashi flipped a page of his book. Yep. And the fight's basically over. Back on the field. As the smoke thinned, the space where Kaito had been was empty. Then, a ripple of movement. Kaito appeared behind Uchihaclan, slamming him into the ground with a single precise motion. His palm pressed to Uchihaclan's back, seals crawling across the Mistnin's skin like ink. This was fun, Kaito said quietly, but I'm not wasting more chakra than needed. Uchihaclan froze, limbs locking. Kaito stood, turning away. Proctor. But Rado suddenly stiffened. Kaito felt it too. A violent surge of chakra, burning and unstable. Kaito turned just as Uchihaclan rose, wrapped in an orange cloak, eyes animalistic. It's not over, Uchihaclan growled. He lunged. Kaito leapt skyward, narrowly avoiding a punch that cracked the ground where he'd stood. So he's using the Six Tails chakra. Uchihaclan appeared in front of him again, fist grazing his cheek, acidic chakra burning a line across his face. Kaito hissed at the sting. Acid. So this is the Six Tails corrosive chakra. Another punch slammed into his guard, the force sending him tumbling back through the air. He twisted, landing on his feet as his palms smoked with burns. Before he could press forward again, Uchihaclan unleashed another barrage of destructive bubbles. Kaito wove around them, moving between bursts of corrosive chakra-coated foam. In the stands, Naruto suddenly clutched his stomach, curling over. It hurts. Mama, my stomach. Hinata gasped. Naruto-kun. Kushina rushed over, panic flaring in her eyes. Naruchan. What's wrong? Kaito's clone placed a chakra chain around Naruto gently. It's the other Jinchuriki's chakra. Naruto's reacting to it. I'll suppress it. The burning in Naruto's stomach faded, and he slumped in relief. Will the real you be okay? Naruto asked. The clone smiled lightly. He'll be fine. He's barely even warmed up. Waiting area. Hotaru watched the field anxiously. That chakra, isn't that? Itachi nodded. Similar to the girl from Kumo. Don't worry. Kaito's still holding back. Hotaru inhaled and nodded. Hi. Back on the arena floor. Kaito landed atop the arena wall, breath steady despite the chaos below. Uchihaclan followed him up the wall in a blur, rage pushing more chakra through his body. A tail sprouted behind him, lashing violently. Kaito thought. If he loses control completely, the Six Tails will rampage, and that will only cause trouble for Mom and Naruto. I need to end this now. He dropped back to the arena floor, dust kicking beneath his sandals. Uchihaclan's chakra tail whipped toward him. Kaito slid back, moving just out of range as another crater formed where he'd stood. Uchihaclan charged. Kaito stepped aside. But Uchihaclan's punch passed through him like striking mist. The real Kaito reappeared directly above him, Rasengan swirling with a high-pitched howl in his palm. Rasengan. He drove it into Uchihaclan's back, the force detonating across the arena. The floor shattered beneath them, smoke billowing upward in a violent column. When the dust finally settled, the crowd leaned forward in breathless silence. Kaito stood tall amid the crater, barely marked save for the small burn on his cheek. Utakata lay unconscious beneath him, the chakra cloak gone. The fight, undeniably, completely over. But just as Utakata's punch was about to land, it phased straight through Kaito, passing harmlessly through an afterimage. In the next breath, Kaito appeared above him, chakra swirling violently in his outstretched palm. Rasengan. He drove the spiraling sphere straight into Utakata's back. The impact detonated across the arena floor, shattering stone, and kicking up a massive cloud of dust that swallowed the entire battlefield. As the smoke slowly dispersed, the stadium fell silent. Kaito stood tall at the center of a crater, the faint burn mark on his cheek the only sign he had even been touched. Utakata lay motionless beneath him, the corrosive chakra cloak long gone. Kaito exhaled slowly, rolling his wrist as he stared down at the unconscious boy. "I had to use more chakra than I expected," he muttered, eyeing the swirling Rasengan imprint scorched into Utakata's back. Rado dropped down beside them, gaze briefly widening. He's already mastered the fourth jutsu, and at this level? His eyes lingered on the spiral mark one more time before raising his voice. "The winner of the first match of the Chunin exams finals, Kaito Uzumaki." The stadium erupted. Cheers thundered through the stands, shaking the very air. In the stands, Naruto practically launched into the sky, bouncing with wild excitement. "Way to go, big brother. Ha! Did you see that, Sasuke?" Sasuke simply folded his arms and let out a quiet, unimpressed HN. Kushina wasn't any quieter than Naruto. "That's my baby boy," she shouted, waving both arms like a woman possessed. Mikoto smiled politely beside her, while Fugaku remained stoic, but his eyes followed Kaito with unmistakable interest. He had complete control. He could have ended it even earlier. "I wonder, who's stronger, Itachi or him?" Inochi leaned back. That kid had the match handled from start to finish. If anyone's getting promoted today, it'll be him. Choza nodded. "He's definitely something." Shikaku only smirked. He already knew. Kushina was too busy vibrating with pride to notice. "Did you see that? He was so calm. So composed. He gets that from me, you know." Mikoto laughed gently. "Hi, Kaito handled everything perfectly." Beside her, Hitomi Hyuga nodded with composed admiration. "He'll be promoted for sure." Her eyes softened, her daughter's quiet crush on the boy hardly a secret. Naruto lifted his chin proudly. "One day I'll be even stronger than him. Believe it." Kushina ruffled his hair affectionately. "Keep training hard, Naruchan. You'll catch up." Elsewhere in the stands, Izumi Uchiha stared at the arena, stunned. "Kaito. He's that strong? I couldn't even keep up with him." Beside her, Hana Inuzuka nodded vigorously. "I didn't even see him move. He just, poof." Tsume snorted. "That brat's faster than most jonin. And trust me, he was holding back. Didn't even go all out." Izumi let out a soft sigh. "Itachi, Hotaru, Kaito, they're miles ahead." Tsume crossed her arms with a smirk. "They're prodigies. If you two want to keep up, you better train hard. Otherwise, you'll get left behind before you even realize it." Both girls nodded fiercely. Another corner of the stands. Shisui sat with several Uchiha clan members, his Sharingan studying every movement. "Kaito. He's strong," he thought, impressed. He controlled the entire fight. One of the Uchiha beside him leaned over. "Think Itachi could beat him?" Shisui smiled. "Hard to say. They know each other too well. But I'd pay to watch that match. Precision and genjutsu versus speed and versatility. It'd be incredible." The other nodded. "That's a fight for the history books." Back on the field. As the medics lifted Utakata onto a stretcher, Kaito waved lightly to the cheering crowds, his mother's voice rising above all others. His cheeks flushed softly at her enthusiasm, but he smiled back at her and Naruto anyway. Back in the waiting area, Hotaru wasted no time grabbing him in a tight hug. "You were amazing, Kai-kun." Itachi nodded calmly. "Good fight, Kaito. You demonstrated clear Chunin-level control and judgment." Meanwhile, not far away, Chojuro stared in pale disbelief as his teammate was carried off. He was toying with Utakata. Fear crept into his voice. Mangetsu stood beside him, silent, watching Kaito and his team. A slight smirk tugged at his lips. These three. Interesting indeed. Rado stepped forward again. Mangetsu, Hazuki and Tekai, step forward. Mangetsu descended the stairs, expression unreadable, Tekai from Suna following behind with hostility burning in his eyes. "I'm going to kill you, Kiri scum," Tekai hissed. Mangetsu didn't react. Didn't even blink. He calmly uncapped his water bottle and took a drink. Tekai growled. "I'll show you Suna's superiority." Rado raised his hand. "Ready." Both nodded. "Hajime." Tekai exploded forward with a barrage of kicks and punches. Mangetsu blocked them effortlessly, expression flat. Tekai snarled in frustration and leapt back, forming signs. Suetun, Teppadama. A powerful sphere of water slammed into Mangetsu, engulfing him in a violent burst. Tekai smirked. "Pathetic." A voice whispered behind him. "Too slow." Before he could turn, Mangetsu's blade swept cleanly through his neck. Silence dropped across the arena as Tekai's head fell. In the waiting area, Kiko froze, horror twisting her face. Mangetsu took another sip from his bottle, calm as ever, and began walking off the field. Rado lifted his arm. "The match is over. Winner, Mangetsu Hazuki." Tekai's smirk lingered for a heartbeat, then evaporated into a cold stillness. The water jutsu collapsed. A voice, low and unnerving, came from just behind him. "Too slow." Mangetsu had become the water itself. He reappeared in a ripple at Tekai's back, blade flashing in a motion too clean to follow. The next instant, Tekai's head lay separated from his shoulders. The arena swallowed the sick, metallic sound. Silence slammed down like a physical thing. In the waiting area, Kiko's scream cut the hush as she staggered back, eyes wide in disbelief. The Suna team gripped the railings like survivors on a ship going down. Blood drained from their faces. The audience shifted, more noise in some rows, frozen horror in others. Mangetsu walked off the field with the calm of a man taking a leisurely stroll. He sipped from his water bottle as if nothing uncanny had just happened, as if he hadn't just rewritten the rules of the match in the most brutal way possible. Rado stepped forward, voice precise and official. "The match is over. The victor, Mangetsu Hazuki." The announcement hung in the air, and then reality, the rawness of the shinobi world, settled over the crowd like a chill. Up in the stands, the exam's bravado cracked. Little Naruto's face pinched with something between sorrow and fury, his small fists trembled. "Why did he have to kill him?" he whispered, a child's protest against a grown-up world. Hinata's hand flew to her mouth, tears pricked at her eyes. Sasuke's smirk had vanished, replaced by a severe, hollowed seriousness. Shikamaru's jaw tightened. He watched as if he were seeing a piece of the world he'd only heard about in theory. Yoshino, Mikoto, Hitomi, all of them exchanged looks that said, without words, that this was not a game. Fugaku's voice, dry as a stone, broke the stunned silence. "This is the shinobi world. The weak die, the strong survive." There was no comfort in it. Kushina folded Naruto into her arms, murmuring soft reassurances that did little to dampen the ache. Kaito, sitting nearby, rested a hand on Naruto's head, meeting the child's anger with steady eyes and a quiet confidence. "Naruto," he said simply, "it's hard to change the world, but it's not impossible. We become shinobi to protect what we love. Don't stop believing that. I believe in you." Naruto looked up, resolve replacing sorrow. "Thanks, Kaito Ni-san." The determination blazed anew. Back in the waiting area, the atmosphere churned. Mangetsu crossed the room with the serenity of someone used to killing as policy. Soon as remaining genin seethed, one girl lunged toward him, but Yura caught her arm. "Contain yourself," Yura hissed. "If we start a fight here, it reflects on the village." Mangetsu glanced back once, cold, unimpressed, and said only, "Act like Shinobi. This is not a game. The exams are war. If you can't handle that, leave." He drifted toward Chojuro as if the incident were merely an interlude. On the arena floor the medics moved like actors in a grim ballet, gathering the fallen Suna genin. Rado cleared his throat and, with a professional, flat cadence, called the next bout. Atsui of Kumogakure vs Hotaru Hyuga. Prepare yourselves. Team 11 leaned over the railing, watching the stretcher carried off. Hotaru's name was called. She smiled, stepping forward with the composed calm of a Hyuga heiress. Kaito ruffled her hair and grinned, half warning, half tease. "Don't go too hard," he whispered. "He's from Kumo, not his boss." He meant to lighten the mood. There was the shadow of old grudges there, but his confidence in her was obvious. Itachi's nod was brief and measured. "Good luck." Hotaru's answer was simple. "Hi. I will do my best." She dropped from the waiting area and took her place on the field. In the stands Kushina, Hitomi, Naruto, and Hinata leaned forward. Naruto screamed encouragement at the top of his lungs. Kushina shouted, joyous and fearful at once. Hitomi's hand tightened on Kushina's sleeve. "They're brutal today," she whispered. Kushina only smiled and squeezed back. "She'll be fine. Hotaru's strong, and Kaito'll watch out for her." Across the field Atsue and Hotaru faced one another. He was slightly older, asymmetrical blonde hair falling across his face, eyes sharp as blades. He carried himself like someone eager for proof. "You are Hotaru Hyuga?" he asked. "I've wanted to fight you since I heard your name." Hotaru tilted her head, cool and attentive. "Why is that?" "My sister, Samui," Atsue said with a half-smile. "She fought you years ago. She said you were one of the strongest she faced." Recognition flashed across Hotaru's expression. "Ah, I remember." "Then let me see for myself," Atsue said. The challenge was sincere and hungry. Hotaru relaxed into a fighting stance, the Byakugan ghosted in her eyes. Rado signaled. "Hajime." Atsue lunged with a blade drawn, raw speed and ambition in every step. Hotaru slipped back, parrying the opening with a kunai and folding into the Hyuga gentle fist stance as the exchange escalated. Atsue pressed forward, sword arcing in a wide, lethal arc, cloud-style crescent moon beheading. The blade sheared through the air where she'd been standing an instant before. Hotaru leapt aside, the kunai in her hand cutting in two under the strength of the strike. She didn't falter. Dropping the broken kunai, she switched seamlessly to the Hyuga handwork, taking a defensive posture that favored precise chakra control over brute force. Atsue's blade came again, a horizontal slash meant to cleave through flesh, but Hotaru's body moved like water, sidestepping. She extended a palm. Atsue met it with the haft of his sword. The two clashed, neither yielding. Atsue multiplied his pressure, two clones flashed into being, then three, and all screamed, reverse mist beheading. The three blades swept in unison. Hotaru's Byakugan bloomed white. She centered her breathing, wrapped her form in a spinning torrent of chakra, and invoked 8 trigrams rotation. The dome of whirling chakra met the blades. Metal screamed against the chakra barrier, sparks scattering as the wave of force rebounded, flinging Atsue and his clones off balance. Atsue hit the ground hard, spitting blood, struggling to rise. Hotaru didn't waste a breath. "You are within my divination," she intoned. Her hands blurred. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. The strikes came faster than sight, 16, then an unrelenting cascade, until her limbs were a storm of white and pale blue. 32 palms. Each blow was an exacting strike to chakra points, a surgical dismantling. The final palm drove into Atsua's midsection with a force that was almost gentle and utterly devastating. He flew back like a thing uprooted, landing with a sickening thud. Hotaru stood, chakra still shimmering in her eyes, breath steady. The opponent lay defeated. Silence, then a roar, a sound that came from the shock of having watched technique and precision do what raw power could not. Hotaru gave not a boast but a small, composed bow. She stepped back to the waiting area, where Kaito and Itachi met her with quiet pride. She had shown what she was, and the stands, filled with the weight of what they had seen that day, recognized it. As the final palm struck home, Atsua's body lifted off the ground like a puppet whose strings had been severed. He crashed onto the arena floor with a heavy thud, dust scattering around him. For a moment, he tried to push himself up, trembling arms shaking under his weight, but the strength drained from his limbs, and he collapsed again, breath ragged and defeated. Hotaru stood tall, her Byakugan still glowing faintly as she regarded the fallen Kumo genin with calm focus. Only after confirming he was unable to continue did she release her stance and allow her eyes to fade back to normal. Atsua groaned, a low laugh slipping out despite the pain racking his body. A thin line of blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth as he looked up at her with a crooked grin. "I guess my sister wasn't wrong," he wheezed, breath uneven. Hotaru exhaled softly, still a little winded from the intensity of the exchange, but otherwise pristine. She stepped closer and replied in a steady, respectful tone, "You weren't bad yourself." "Heh. Didn't even make you sweat," Atsua chuckled weakly, coughing afterward. Rado appeared beside them in a blur, eyes scanning Atsua's condition before raising his arm toward Hotaru. His voice rang out through the arena, firm and clear. "The winner of the third match, Hotaru Hyuga." A roar of applause burst from the stands, the crowd erupting in admiration at the display of clean, elegant technique. Hotaru gave a small wave to the cheering audience, then turned and made her way back to the waiting area with composed steps. Behind her, the medic nin sprinted onto the field, carefully lifting Atsua onto a stretcher and rushing him toward the infirmary. Up in the stands, Kushina shot to her feet instantly, one fist pumping into the air while her other hand cupped her mouth. "Way to go, Hotaru-chan. You were absolutely amazing. Why no?" she shouted, her voice echoing across the stadium. Sitting back with a beaming smile, she nudged Hitomi. "See? I told you Hotaru-chan would be fine." Hitomi let out a relieved breath, pride softening her features. "Hi, she's incredible." Yoshino leaned forward with a small laugh. Shikaku wasn't exaggerating. Seeing them fight in person is something else entirely. Naruto practically bounced out of his seat. "Hinata-chan. Did you see that? Hotarune was super awesome. That spinny move she did. Whoosh. And then the punches. Bam bam bam. Believe it." Hinata nodded vigorously, eyes sparkling. "Hi. Hotarune was amazing." Her voice softened, almost wistful. "I hope I can be like her someday." Beside her, Neji crossed his arms, giving a firm nod. As expected of Hotaru-sama. She represents the Hyuga perfectly. Sasuke didn't say anything, but the small grunt he let out was unmistakable acknowledgement. Hayashi stood with his arms folded, face composed but eyes shining with unmistakable pride. "She has truly grown strong," he murmured. Next to him, Hisashi offered a small smile. Her discipline showed in every movement. With a performance like that, promotion is guaranteed. A few rows down, Shikaku watched quietly as Choza let out a low whistle. "You weren't kidding." She didn't even waver once. Inoicha nodded. "Hi." The moment she activated the Byakugan, the match was over. Shikaku only hummed thoughtfully, eyes half-lidded. He already knew. Izumi and Hana were wide-eyed at their own section of the stands. Hana leaned forward, stunned. "I didn't even see Hotaru move at the end." Izumi, Sharingan still faintly active, shook her head in awe. Even with this, it was difficult to keep up. She was always several steps ahead. Hana slumped back. "I knew she was strong, but, wow." Izumi smiled faintly. Don't forget, she graduated with Itachi-kun and Kaito-kun at age 7. They've been monsters since the academy. Back in the waiting area, Hotaru returned to her team with a soft smile, cheeks flushed with embarrassment as Kaito broke into a huge grin. You were amazing, Hotaru-chan, he declared, ruffling her hair. You had that whole fight under control. And that kaiten, damn, that looked badass, why no? Itachi nodded, arms crossed. Hi. A clean execution. The finishing sequence was impressive. Hotaru's blush deepened, but her smile widened. Thank you, both of you. Before any of them could speak further, Reido's voice boomed through the arena, calling the next match. Chojuro of Kirigakure. Yura of Tsunagakure. Step forward. Hotaru, Kaito, and Itachi leaned against the railing as the two descended. Kaito narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. Chojuro, the future 6th Mizukage, he mused. I wonder how strong he is at this age. Back on the arena floor, Atsua's stretcher vanished into the infirmary tunnel as Reido raised his gaze to the waiting platforms. Yura of Tsunagakure. Chojuro of Kirigakure. Make your way to the arena. Both genin leapt down moments later. Yura stood tall, determination burning in his eyes. Chojuro looked slightly nervous, clutching his twin blades but stepping forward with resolve. Reido glanced between them. Are you both ready? 2 nods. He sprung back. Hajime. Instantly both genin retreated, establishing distance. Chojuro's hands blurred through familiar seals. One arm raised, the other at a ram sign. Hidden mist jutsu. A thick veil of fog rolled out, engulfing the field in seconds. Yura cursed under his breath. TCH, the hidden mist. He hurled kunai toward the faint outline he thought he saw, but the haze swallowed everything. The mist thickened until even the arena walls blurred. A whisper of movement behind him. Yura spun, barely dodging a slash. A thin cut opened across his cheek. More slashes followed, rapid and invisible. Yura defended by instinct alone, body stinging with fresh wounds. Damn it. He leapt back and formed seals. Wind release, great breakthrough. A massive gust tore through the haze, shredding the mist apart. Chojuro emerged unharmed, blades drawn, stance calm. Yura reacted instantly. Explosive tag kunai flew toward the Kiri genin, propelled by gale palm. The projectiles tore through the air at deadly speeds. Chojuro leapt back, hands flashing. Water style, water wall. A rushing surge formed a towering wave of water that swallowed the explosions, drenching the arena in a rain of droplets. Yura didn't hesitate. Vacuum sphere. Dozens of wind bullets shot forward, slicing through the space where Chojuro stood. But the Kiri genin weaved between them gracefully. Yura's eyes widened. He flung wind-sharpened shuriken next. They sliced through Chojuro's counterattacks like paper, nicking his side. Chojuro winced, then moved. He unsheathed both blades fully and blurred forward. Yura met him with twin kunai, and the two clashed in a flurry of blows, steel ringing, sparks flaring. But Yura's earlier wounds dragged at him. His movements dulled, breaths uneven. He forced one last gambit, body flicker, appearing behind Chojuro to strike. His kunai stabbed through, water. A clone. The real Chojuro materialized behind him, blade pressed lightly against Yura's throat. His voice was breathless but steady. It's over. Please, forfeit. In a last-ditch effort to turn the tide, Yura flickered forward in a burst of speed, kunai aimed straight for Chojuro's chest. The blade connected, yet instead of flesh, it sliced cleanly through water. Yura's eyes widened as the clone collapsed into a puddle at his feet. TCH. When? His breath hitched as the realization struck him. It must have been when he used the hidden mist. He switched himself out then. He barely had time to curse before he felt it, cold metal kissing the skin of his neck. The pressure was subtle, controlled, but unmistakably lethal. Chojuro stood behind him, breath steady but shoulders rising and falling with exhaustion. His voice was soft, almost apologetic. "It's over. Please, forfeit the fight." Ura's jaw tightened. Every muscle in his body screamed in frustration, in humiliation. But with the blade poised at his artery, and his stamina spent, there was no path left. His fingers trembled at his sides as he forced out the words, low and bitter. "Or I forfeit." Rado, standing a few paces away, lifted a hand. Winner of the fourth match, Chojuro of Kirigakure. Cheers erupted across the arena, though many were still murmuring about Mangetsu's earlier brutality. Ura jerked away from the blade the second it left his skin, refusing to look at Chojuro or acknowledge the small, respectful bow he offered. He stalked back toward the waiting area with rigid steps, shoulders tight with resentment. Back in the waiting area, Kaito and his teammates leaned forward against the railing, watching Chojuro return the same way he came, a quiet figure with a blade almost too big for his frame, yet wielded with precision beyond most grown shinobi. Kaito crossed his arms, humming thoughtfully. He switched with a water clone the moment his water wall exploded. Smooth timing. His kenjutsu's clean too. His aiming for the seven swordsmen, no doubt about it. Hotaru nodded beside him. "Hi. His water release is really refined for his age." Itachi observed silently, his onyx eyes following Chojuro's movements. He's also practiced in the silent killing technique. A few feet away, the remaining Suna genin stood frozen near the railing. Kiko stared down at Ura's defeated figure, her hands shaking. "Not even Ura could win," she whispered, voice trembling with fear and anger. Itachi stepped forward then, moving toward the exit as Rado's voice echoed across the arena, calling the next names. "It's my turn," he said quietly. Kaito placed a hand briefly on his shoulder as he passed. "Good luck, Itachi." Hotaru added with a gentle smile, "Show them your strength." Itachi offered a small nod, then slipped away down the stairs, calm as ever. Moments later, the lazy-looking Kumo genin, Nemua, also shuffled away from the railing, yawning as if the whole ordeal was just another minor inconvenience. Back on the arena floor, Rado's voice thundered once more. "Will Itachi Uchiha and Nemui of Kumogakure please step forward?" The crowd stirred instantly, a wave of anticipation sweeping through the stadium. Itachi walked out with quiet confidence, each step steady and measured. Nemua followed behind him, posture slouched, eyes half closed as though he was moments away from falling asleep. The two genin came to a stop before Rado, taking their positions. Nemua let out a small yawn, lifting his head just enough to glance at Itachi. Itachi simply returned the look, calm, unreadable, his gaze steady. Up in the stands, Sasuke leaned forward eagerly, pride practically radiating from him. "Watch closely, Naruto. This is how a real Uchiha fights." Naruto puffed his cheeks. "Kaito Nai-san is still stronger." Kushina bounced excitedly in her seat. "Mikoto, your sun is up. Aren't you excited?" Mikoto smiled, though nerves glimmered beneath her expression. "I am, but I can't help worrying. His opponent looks older." Hitomi and Kushina nodded with the same motherly concern, while Fugaku folded his arms, watching sharply. "Show me your strength, Itachi." In the arena, Rado looked back at the two genin. "Are you ready?" Two slow nods. "Hajime." He leapt back, and instantly the air cracked with motion. Itachi lunged back, scattering kunai in a precise pattern. Nemua, head still down, deflected them with almost lazy flicks of his wrist. Itachi shot forward again, fist whipping toward Nemua's jaw. But Nemua's hand snapped up, catching the punch effortlessly, and in the same motion he pivoted and flipped Itachi cleanly over his shoulder. Itachi twisted, rolled, and landed with feline grace. How did he counter that without looking? Nemua raised his head for just an instant before relaxing again, eyelids drooping. Itachi's Sharingan ignited. The real fight began. As the 8 trigrams rotation ended, Hotaru took her stance and declared, "You are within my divination." Before Atsuya could react, she struck him twice with precise blows, 2 palms. Then came 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, her voice rising and falling like a practiced rhythm. 8 trigrams, 32 palms. Her arms blurred in a flurry of motion, each strike landing with pinpoint accuracy, each hit forcing the breath from Atsua's lungs. By the time the final palm slammed into his stomach, Atsua's feet left the ground. He crashed onto his back with a sharp exhale, the impact rattling the arena floor. He tried desperately, to get up. His muscles trembled, refusing to obey. At last, he collapsed again, defeated. Hotaru stood above him, breath steadying, her Byakugan fading back to pale lavender. Atsua groaned, then managed a shaky laugh despite the pain twisting his features. Blood traced the corner of his mouth as he chuckled. I guess, my sister wasn't wrong. Hotaru exhaled softly. She was slightly winded, but her posture remained firm. She deactivated her Byakugan and looked down at him, the faintest hint of respect in her eyes. You weren't bad yourself. Atsua coughed, grimaced, then muttered, Heh, didn't even make you sweat. Rado appeared beside them in a blur of movement, assessing Atsua's condition before raising his hand toward Hotaru. The winner of the third match, Hotaru Hyuga. The crowd erupted, voices filling the stadium in thunderous applause. Hotaru offered a quick wave before turning back toward the waiting area. The medics rushed in, lifting Atsua gently onto a stretcher. Up in the stands, Kushina shot up from her seat like a fired-up rocket, waving both arms wildly. Way to go, Hotaru-chan. That was amazing. You know. Kushina's voice carried across half the stadium, unmistakable and full of pride. Hitomi let out a relieved sigh beside her. She did wonderfully. I should have trusted her. Yoshino nodded appreciatively. Shikaku wasn't exaggerating. These kids really are prodigies. Naruto nearly fell over from cheering, eyes wide with awe. Did you see that, Hinata-chan? Hotarune was so cool. Those spinning moves, boom. So awesome. Believe it. Hinata smiled shyly, her eyes sparkling. Hi. Hotarune was amazing. Neji adjusted his posture proudly. As expected of Hotaru-sama. Sasuke only gave a grunt of acknowledgement, though even he watched with a hint of admiration. Hayashi sat rigid, but the way his eyes softened betrayed his pride. She has grown beautifully, he murmured. Hisashi nodded in quiet agreement. Choza let out a low whistle. Shikaku, you trained monsters. Inoicha nodded. Her precision was extraordinary. Shikaku just smirked. I told you. Further up in the stands, Izumi Uchiha was practically vibrating. Hana, did you see her 32 palms? I could barely track it, even with Sharingan. Hana nodded quickly. Hotaru is insane. I didn't know she was that strong. Izumi crossed her arms proudly. She graduated at 7, with Kaito and Itachi. Of course she's insane. Back in the waiting area, Hotaru stepped inside, and Kaito immediately grinned and ruffled her hair. You crushed it, Hotaru-chan. Total control. And when you spun that blade attack, man, you looked badass. Itachi nodded calmly beside him. Your precision is flawless. Well done. Hotaru's cheeks warmed at the praise. Thank you, both of you. Rado's voice boomed outside. Will Chojuro of Kirigakure and Yura of Sunagakure please proceed to the arena? Hotaru stepped to the railing with Kaito and Itachi, watching the next pair descend. On the arena floor, after a grueling exchange of jutsu, explosions, and slashing steel, Yura lunged desperately, only for his kunai to slice straight through a dissolving water clone. He touched the ground, eyes wide, when the cold edge of a blade pressed against his neck. Chojuro's voice was faintly breathless, but steady. It's over, please forfeit. Realization hit Yura like a weight. He replaced himself when the water wall exploded. His muscles slackened. His pride cracked. Oh, I forfeit. Rado raised his hand. Winner of the fourth match, Chojuro of Kirigakure. Chojuro withdrew his blade immediately and bowed politely. Yura didn't return the gesture. He turned away stiffly, frustration etched into every step. Back in the waiting area, Kaito leaned forward, humming in thought as Chojuro returned. Strong kenjutsu, precision timing, water-style mastery, yeah. His aiming for the seven swordsmen. Hotaru nodded. His ninjutsu is impressive too. Itachi folded his arms. And he's competent with silent killing. Experienced. A girl from Suna gripped the railing tightly, her voice cracking. Not even Yura could beat him. Itachi turned, ready for his turn the moment Rado called his name. It's my match. Kaito clapped him on the shoulder. Good luck. Hotaru smiled gently. You'll do fine, Itachi-kun. And Itachi descended toward the arena, Nemua trailing lazily behind him. Taking advantage of Kiko's momentary blindness from the blinding flash, C surged forward like lightning. His tanto sliced through the air toward her throat, but Kiko reacted on instinct. Her remaining battle fan snapped up to block, metal clashing against metal with a sharp clang. The impact was too strong. The fan tore from her grip and spiraled across the arena floor. Kiko gasped, stumbling back, but she refused to yield. She desperately reached for her second fan, intending to send a cutting wind blast. But she never got the chance. C's foot slammed into her stomach with brutal force, the blow lifting her off her feet and sending her crashing onto her back. Her breath hitched, pain exploding through her abdomen as she struggled to get up. Before she could rise, a cold blade touched the skin of her neck. C stood over her, unblinking. It's over. Kiko froze. Her fingers trembled against the cracked arena floor. A soft, defeated breath escaped her lips. Oh hi. Rado landed beside them without a sound, his cloak settling around him. The winner of the sixth match, C of Kumogakure. Cheers erupted across the arena, though quieter than previous matches. The fight had been short, sharp, and decisive. C sheathed his tanto in one smooth motion and walked off without another word, not even glancing back at his fallen opponent. As the blade's pressure left her throat, Kiko's strength gave out and she slumped onto the ground, shame and frustration weighing heavily on her shoulders. Rado announced that the semifinals would begin after a 15-minute break. The crowd began to disperse, conversations buzzing through the stands. With Kaito wandered between the food stalls with his clone, both arms full of snacks. When he spotted his clone buying dozens of dango sticks, he frowned. How are you paying for all that? The clone stiffened. I forgot this money is cloned. Kaito let out a long, tired sigh. Unbelievable. He paid the vendor himself before walking away, muttering under his breath. The two indulged in their food like children at a festival, fried snacks, skewers dripping in sauce, mochi stuffed with sweet fillings, until they finally reached Tucha's ramen stall. Let's grab ramen too, Kaito suggested. The clone nodded eagerly. Mom and Naruto will kill us if we don't bring some. Tucha spotted him. Kaito, you're supposed to be at the arena. I-Aim peeked from the kitchen, cheeks flushing pink. Gee, good morning, Kaito-kun. Good morning, I-Aim-chan, he smiled. We are on break. He ordered several bowls, and while waiting, he and the clone wandered to sample even more food. They were mid-bite into a taiyaki when I-Aim tapped Kaito urgently. Kaito-kun, they're calling your name. His eyes widened. The clone's eyes widened. Oh, shit. Both bolted. Back in the arena. The crowd refilled the stands as Rado stepped onto the battlefield. The Chunin finals will now resume. He raised his voice toward the waiting area. Kaito Uzumaki of Konoha and Mangetsu Hazuki of Kirigakure, report to the arena floor. Mangetsu rose immediately, blade on his back, steps calm and steady. Hotaru scanned the arena anxiously. Oh, where is Kai-kun? She whispered. Probably the restroom, Itachi murmured. But even he didn't sound convinced. In the stands, Kushina gnawed her nails like a worried mother bird. Where is he? Sasuke smirked. Maybe he ran away. Naruto exploded. Shut up. Kaito nii would never run away. Hinata flinched but nodded. He wouldn't. Reido's voice boomed again. Kaito Uzumaki, report at once. Failure to appear in 2 minutes will result in disqualification. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Hotaru activated her Byakugan instantly, and groaned. Oh, he's eating ramen. Itachi pinched the bridge of his nose. Of course he was. The final seconds. Reido lifted the stopwatch. The crowd leaned forward. 5 seconds left. 4, 3, 2. A flicker of emerald chakra flashed across the field. Kaito appeared in a blur of motion, smoke swirling at his feet. Sorry, I got caught up in something, he said with a sheepish grin. Reido exhaled sharply, slipping the stopwatch away. Another second, and you'd be disqualified. Kaito bowed slightly. Won't happen again. The match begins. Hajime. Both sprang back instantly. Kaito hurled shuriken in a tight spread. Mangetsu countered with his own. But then, Kaito's multiplied into hundreds, filling the sky in a deadly swarm. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. Mangetsu clicked his tongue and formed signs mid-air. Water style, water wall. A massive torrent surged up, shielding him as metal rained down. Kaito appeared beside him in a flicker, Tanto slicing forward, only to sink halfway into Mangetsu's dissolving arm. What? Mangetsu's body liquefied, reforming instantly as he countered with his blade. Kaito leapt back, clearing distance. Hydrification. Hazuki clan's broken technique. Lightning would counter it, but Kaito wasn't done playing with water yet. Mangetsu slammed his hands together. Hidden mist technique. The world drowned in fog. But Kaito just smiled. Bad matchup for you. I'm a censor. Mangetsu struck from the left, blocked. From behind, dodged. From below, Kaito twisted, avoiding the rising water spikes. Mid-air, he launched kunai and shuriken, multiplying them into a storm. Mangetsu's body dissolved again as steel passed harmlessly through. Kaito landed lightly, bored. All right. Let's end this. He formed 2 rapid signs. Water style, exploding water shock wave. Water surged upward in a spiraling vortex before crashing downward in a roaring wave. Mangetsu scrambled to balance, only for Kaito to follow up instantly. Water style, giant waterfall. A devastating torrent swallowed Mangetsu whole, slamming him into the arena wall hard enough to shake the stands. The mist dissipated, revealing Mangetsu barely standing. Kaito appeared before him, Tanto at his throat. It's over. Mangetsu smirked weakly. Oh, it is. His body melted into water. Kaito blinked. Too late. The water beneath his feet thickened, turning viscous, gluing him in place. Tendrils of water shot upward, coiling around his arms and torso. Mangetsu emerged behind him, finger shaped like a gun. Suetun. Water gun. And he fired. The blast hit point blank. Unable to dodge the attack, Mangetsu was swept up by the overwhelming current and slammed into the arena wall with a violent crash that sent dust and shattered stone flying. As the waters finally subsided, Mangetsu slid down the cracked surface, barely managing to brace himself with one knee on the ground. He looked battered, his breath ragged, yet his eyes still burned with defiance. Kaito appeared before him in a flicker, his tanto pressed lightly, but confidently, against Mangetsu's neck. A small smirk tugged at Kaito's lips as he declared, "It's over." For a split second, Mangetsu's expression twisted, not in fear, but in amusement. "It is," he murmured. Before Kaito could react, Mangetsu's entire body melted into water right in front of him. Kaito's eyes widened. TCH. He tried to jump back, but the moment he stepped, the ground beneath his feet, no, the water beneath his feet, thickened suddenly, turning into a viscous trap. Watery tendrils shot upward like serpents, coiling tightly around his legs, then his torso, locking him in place. As Kaito struggled, Mangetsu materialized silently behind him, his form rising from the rippling pool like a spectre. His left arm shook from the earlier damage, but his right hand raised steadily. He aimed one finger at the back of Kaito's head, shaped like a gun barrel. Without hesitation, a sharp blast of condensed water shot forward. It pierced through. Blood exploded outward in a violent spray, splattering the arena floor as Kaito's body jerked forward. His form collapsed in a lifeless heap, crimson pooling rapidly beneath his head. The entire arena froze in horror as the sickening thud echoed across the silent stadium. Rado appeared beside them in an instant, too late to prevent the strike. His eyes widened at the sight of the unmoving body. Mangetsu stood breathing heavily, clutching his damaged arm, staring coldly at the fallen Kaito. The reality of what he had done settled on the arena like a suffocating fog. Up in the stands, Kushina's scream tore through the silence. Kaito! Naruto's bowl of ramen fell from his hands, crashing to the ground as he cried out, "Kaito nii-san." Hotaru's voice joined theirs, cracking with panic and grief. "Kaito-kun." The stadium erupted into gasps and horrified whispers. Kushina slumped back into her seat, trembling violently, tears pouring down her face. "No, no. Kaito." Naruto sobbed uncontrollably, fists clenched, his chakra flaring wildly in reaction to his overwhelming emotion. Mikoto covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh no." Hitomi froze in shock, unable to tear her eyes away. Hinata covered her face with trembling hands. Shikamaru seemed sick to his stomach. Even Sasuke, normally so composed, stared in disbelief. Shikaku's expression hardened into grim tension. Down in the waiting area, Hotaru lunged forward, body shaking. "Kaito-kun," she cried, eyes wide with terror. Before she could jump from the balcony, Itachi caught her arm firmly. "Let me go." Hotaru screamed, struggling against him, tears streaming down her cheeks. Itachi's grip tightened. His voice was calm, too calm. "Just watch." The word hung in the air. Back in the stands, Naruto's cries echoed painfully, until a loud slurping sound cut through everything. Sitting right next to them, Kaito noisily slurped a mouthful of ramen. Everyone turned toward him in stunned silence. Kaito blinked, confused. "What?" Kushina's jaw dropped. "Keikai, too?" Naruto sniffed, eyes wide. "Ni-san." Kaito raised one brow and swallowed. "Damn, that guy managed to beat my clone." Gasps erupted all around. Back on the arena floor, Mangetsu staggered backward as Kaito's bloody corpse dissolved into white smoke, revealing it had been nothing more than a shadow clone. Mangetsu grit his teeth, eyes scanning wildly. "TCH, damn it." Rado exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "I was just about to call the match. That brat fooled me too." In the waiting area, Hotaru froze mid-struggle as the clone vanished in smoke. Relief crashed into her like a tidal wave. "Okay," she whispered, falling to her knees briefly as her eyes overflowed with tears of relief. Then, anger replaced the fear. "I'm going to kill him for scaring me like that." She turned to Itachi. "How did you know, Itachi-kun?" Itachi shrugged lightly. "Kaito has used that trick on me before. Many times." Up in the stands, Kushina launched herself at the real Kaito, hugging him with all her strength. "You stupid child. Don't ever scare me like that again," she sobbed, hitting his shoulder lightly. "Oh, what was that for?" Kaito winced. Naruto dove into the hug. "You're alive." "Kaito nii-san." Kaito, finally understanding, awkwardly rubbed their backs. Sorry? I couldn't let the food go to waste. Why no?" After more scolding, Kaito flickered away, finally returning to the arena. Back on the field, Mangetsu searched desperately, until Kaito reappeared in a blur, holding a steaming bowl of ramen and chopsticks mid-slurp. Kaito looked at him lazily. "So? Are we fighting or what?" Furious, Mangetsu formed rapid hand signs. "Water style, water dragon jutsu." A massive water dragon roared toward Kaito, but he flickered away. A moment later, Kaito appeared above him, then behind him, then beside him, after images everywhere. A thunderous kick slammed Mangetsu to the ground. Before Mangetsu could recover, Kaito flickered in front of him again. "Sorry, but I'm getting bored." Red lightning crackled violently across Kaito's body. Red lightning, Nagashi. Electricity exploded outward. Mangetsu screamed as red bolts tore through him, more vicious against his hydrated body. His form convulsed, flickered into liquid, then back, before collapsing in a heap, twitching once before going still. Mangetsu lay unconscious. The match was over. And that wraps up today's episode of What If Naruto Had a Big Brother. Kaito's journey is only getting more intense, and the future of the ninja world is changing with every step he takes. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see what happens next, make sure to hit that like button, share the video with other Naruto fans, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. Drop your theories in the comments. I love reading them. See you in the next episode.